All right, sulfur. Let's dive down the sulfur rabbit hole because I'm torturing you today. I'm sorry.
Today's torturous if we're talking about sulfur because I do not have all the answers straight up. I'll just tell you that right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Because sulfur is one of those things you tend to see pretty high in both soil and in tissue. Is there a level that concerns you?
So that's another one that sulfur can be much higher on tissue than it can be in sap. And I look at low levels, and that is super concerning because you need sulfur to create proteins. So if you can have really long chain amino acids, but if you don't have enough sulfur, you're not going to create those proteins. And you have to do very specific tests, and I don't actually know what they are, to understand how much amino acids and how much proteins you have. People often say amino acids and proteins, but they're quite different. And what you really want, the goal, is proteins. Amino acids are cool. Those are great, but we really do want the proteins. So sulfur is really needed in that in seed production. So if that sulfur isn't able to move, then that's a huge problem. And you're right, there can be a lot of sulfur in this system, and it's just not being able to move up the plant. And looking at white papers and such, I've glimpsed that nitrogen excess exacerbates sulfur deficiency. And I have seen this before. So extremely excessive nitrogen many times makes sulfur act like immobile. It gives it a contingency. Sulfur and nitrogen are highly linked. And so if you have excessive nitrogen, the plant isn't moving that nitrogen to the top of the plant. It's pushing it down to the bottom. It's an excess macro mobile, which means storage is at the bottom of the plant. And if the plant is pushing excess nitrogen to the bottom of the plant, sulfur isn't getting a ride to the top.
Very cool. Yeah. So I think it's all proteins can be amino acids, but not all amino acids can be proteins. Is the thought process. And just for the audience, when a protein is folded, it creates an intercellular release of certain things that the cell needs to do, functions of certain kinds. So that's why it's so important to have that high level of proteins. Yes, you need the amino acids, but the proteins are the intercellular function. Say it's the cafeteria for the intercellular health. And I got to close this shade or I'm going to get blinded in a minute. Hang on one second.
No problem.
It's that time of the year.